After our 4-day sail from Puerto Rico, we made it safely into the quarantine anchorage in Curacao. We never drink while underway, so once we get situated, no matter what time of day, it is time to celebrate with a couple of drinks and a nice warm meal. In this case, fresh mahi sandwiches. We then called it a day and waited for the Coast Guard to arrive the next morning.
So we just got done with the Coast Guard. They pulled up to the boat. They did our nasal swabs and throat swabs, and we filled out a bunch of the paperwork.
Morning.
Good morning.
English?
English.
Okay, I need a passport. You have the inbound outbound already filled out?
I think so.
Okay.
Do you have the
Can I have all the papers then?
I have.
The passport.
Okay.
And they took our passports, so we're just waiting on a negative test result now. And then we can go clear in at Customs and Immigration.
Yeah, pretty easy process. So now we just wait, but that's okay. We have a couple boat chores to do. All of our outfit changes from our sail because we were wet and having to change all the time.
That's all the laundry just because we had to keep getting out of wet clothes. Brooke's doing hand laundry today in the bucket. God bless her. So we're sitting here in quarantine the day after we arrived in Curacao, and I decided to dig into the autopilot, and I'm pretty mad at myself because when it stopped working, I came down and gave it all a quick look and didn't see anything immediately wrong with it. I tried resetting it. I tried disconnecting and reconnecting the connectors to the drive unit. Nothing seemed to help. And then I had a thought, oh, well, maybe there's a fuse in line. And sure enough, I came down and I reached in here and I pulled out the 10 amp fuse. I took a look at it. It looked fine. So I stuck it back in and said, oh, well, I guess we're not going to fix it. What I should have done is taken a multimeter to it and actually tested it, because it turns out the fuse was actually bad, even though it looked completely fine. So I just popped a new fuse in there and the autopilot is working again. We'll have to go out and test it and do some more sailing to see if the fuse is just going to trip again and if there's a different problem actually causing the fuse to blow, or if maybe it just happened to be a bad fuse or the fuse just wore out. So, yet to be seen if just replacing the fuse will actually fix the problem. But kind of just goes to show when you're tired and exhausted from offshore sailing, it definitely messes with your ability to think and your ability to troubleshoot. Oh well, we made it here, and hand steering isn't that bad after all.
We have been in quarantine since Friday. It is now Sunday, about 4 p.m., and the Coast Guard just brought back our negative COVID test.
We haven't been off the boat since last Monday, so
Oh
it's
yeah.
starting to get a little stir crazy. It's been 6 days since we've stepped foot on ground.
So tomorrow morning we get to go on a little adventure to the Customs and Immigration office. We are on the adventure to find Customs first. Well, no, wait, we're trying to find Immigration first because they have our passports. And then once we get our passports, then we have to find Customs. So we left early because we knew this was going to be an all-day process. We found it!
We just finished what we need to do at immigration here and got our passports back. The immigration office is this green building right here. And now we need to go over to Customs and Port Control, and that building is right there. And we need to walk there, so unless you can walk across water, it means we have to walk about 20 minutes back to town, go over the bridge, and then walk back, which is pretty hilarious because they're not that far apart and you can see both of them, but can't easily get to both of them.
It's kind of fun because we get to see a lot of the island this way.
I'm gonna get stuck.
I don't know if your butt's gonna fit.
I'm sorry, but this saves 40 minutes of walking. We took the pontoon swing bridge across the river when we normally walked over to the side, But right now the bridge is open, so apparently there's a free ferry that runs people back and forth when the bridge is open. So now we're gonna go back and get on the ferry. Well, we just got off the ferry and now we're right here at customs, so we'll see how this goes.
In Curacao, as well as other Caribbean islands, they use a platform called SailClear. With a SailClear account, your boat and crew info is retained, eliminating the need to handwrite paperwork upon arrival.
So we just finished with customs and we started to walk over towards where we thought the port control office was. But somebody told us that it's not there, it's actually back across the river, but they're closed now. So we just stopped here at the ATM to get us some local currency. We've got Netherlands guilders, Antilles guilders here.
What's the conversion rate to US?
It is approximately 2 guilders for $1 US.
And we feel like by the time we walk over there, they're gonna be open.
It's all the way back next to immigration, so we've got to go back over the river. Now the bridge is operating, so we don't have to take the ferry again. But we've got to go all the way back over there across the river.
And just like before, we took the shortcut under the fence to save about a mile or more of walking. Well, we got our anchoring permit. Wasn't too painful, and now we just walked outside and met a couple of people who offered us a ride. Yeah, so they're gonna give us a ride back to the dinghy dock, which is super cool and nice of them, because it was a long journey over here. Curacao is known for having a tricky check-in process amongst sailors, and after our all-day experience, we have to agree.
What are you wearing?
Just pulled out my new wetsuit. It is July, and this was my Christmas present from Gary's parents. First time I'm using it. It takes a while to get stuff out here, but when we were in Florida, or should I say when we were in New York, I was able to get my Christmas present, and I'm ready to go try it out. We hadn't scuba dove since we left Statia in April, and we had heard such great things about diving in Curacao, we couldn't wait to check it out for ourselves. As soon as we hit the water, we were greeted with amazing visibility and this cute little trunkfish. The coral was abundant and home to tons of tiny reef fish. This eel cruising around looking for its next meal was super cool to see. And then Gary found another eel with a tiny cleaner shrimp on him.
Hold me tight. Could you hold me tight? Could you hold me tight? Don't turn on the lights. I don't wanna fight with you.
This dive site was a bit of a dinghy ride from the anchorage, but well worth it.
So we're just motoring back in the cut here to Spanish water. The dive was pretty awesome. It's a very steep drop-off wall. We did a place called Barracuda Point. It was pretty cool, but the current was ripping. It was a really challenging dive just because the current was so strong. So we made it work though, and heading back to One Life now. It is Sunday, and for the last few days we've just been scuba diving and hanging out on the boat pretty much. But today we're gonna go explore by foot, and there's supposed to be the ruins of a hospital, and there's also supposed to be an old fort. So we're gonna go try to check those out. They're right next to the beach where we've been diving. So we're gonna take the dinghy over to the dinghy dock, get rid of our trash, and go see what we find. Hopefully get some exercise.
These are the remnants of Fort Beaconburg, built in the 1700s. And although we couldn't find out too much about the history here, we happily climbed our way to the top to admire the view.
No, this was most likely a cistern that would have been filled with water, and they probably would have had a top on it to keep the water in there. And this would have been their drinking water and washing water reserves.
About how many gallons do you think this is?
Ooh, this is probably like 20,000, 30,000 gallons.
We keep 150 gallons on one life.
Heyday, if that ship was right there, I think this fort would have a decent chance.
A bit further down the trail, and we found the old quarantine hospital. But again, no history to share.
It looks like maybe there was bunks here in this abandoned hospital. Because it looks like 2x4s would fit between there and this side. So there might have been rows of bunks going all the way down, rows of hospital beds. Pretty creepy little building now that it's all just graffitied. Wonder what the story is.
Despite all the graffiti, the building was still really cool to explore, and as we made our way out the back door, we could see the tugboat dive site from the top. If you look closely, you can see a sunken tug and about 20 feet of water from the shore. We, of course, had to check out the underwater view as well. We decided to keep following the trail, which led us to quite possibly our favorite view in all of Curacao. Check it out. Can anyone spot one life?
All right, we are done hiking, so we're gonna run back to One Life and change, and then go try to catch the Euro final game. Brooke's really excited to go watch some soccer.
Woohoo! No, but I am excited for a beer.
Good morning.
We are headed to meet our friends on Busy Bee, and we're gonna go check out some caves on the northern tip of Curacao.
We've got a little bit of a walk to catch the bus. It's picking us up from a resort that's about a 20-minute walk from the dinghy dock.
Hopefully it's a fun day. Morning. When we arrived at Hado Caves, we took a quick walk through the nature trail area. We had no idea Curacao was such a dry island. there were so many prickly plants and jagged rocks. We then made our way up 49 steps to the entrance of the cave. Hado Cave is the biggest and most prominent cave on the island. We were only allowed to take pictures in designated spots, but even from these few shots we were able to get, you can still see just how large of a cave it is.
Just got done with the tour of Hado Caves, and it was really cool. The views in there are spectacular, and there were some bats and some pretty crazy rock formations.
Yeah, I'm glad that we took the time to come up here. It was a little bit of a long drive, but it was worth it. It was really cool.
It was neat, definitely worth seeing. When we got here and anchored in the quarantine anchorage, we noticed that our anchor chain had started to rust pretty bad, and when I was using the windlass, it was actually jumping over some of the teeth because the chain had started to wear out and the link started to elongate. So lucky for us, our friends Bo and Brandy were still in US Virgin Islands, and they had a hookup there to get new chain, which is good American-made Peerless chain. So they loaded up 275 feet of chain onto their boat and sailed it 500 miles down here to us in Curacao, which is awesome. Thank you so much, guys. So now that they just got out of quarantine and checked in yesterday, so we're gonna head over there and offload all the chain into our dinghy and bring it back to One Life. Let's go.
We offloaded our chain basically one link at a time, from Saoirse into our dinghy and then into One Life's cockpit. Since we weren't going to change out our chain right away, we decided to give it a good rinse and let it dry in the cockpit for a few days before storing it. Later that night, the four of us were invited out by our newly made friends, Denise and Steve. They wanted us to experience Netto Bar, which is famous for their green rum shots only made in Curacao. I'm not exactly sure what green rum is made of, but we never say no to shots with new friends.
Shots of death.
In Spanish, they say para arriba,
Para
para
abajo,
abajo,
por el medio, adentro.
pero
It goes.
para mí, para
Arriba
arriba
is
es
up,
up,
down, in the middle, and then inside. So that's the, yeah. So, okay, we go with it in Spanish. Para arriba, para abajo, para el medio, adentro.
Denise and Steve, thanks for the warm Curacao welcome. Cheers, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to sharing our next adventure with you. Thanks for watching.
So we're here at Fort Kroningstad, and this fort was built in 1742 by the Dutch. It was invaded by the French in 1745 by a Navy admiral named Horch.
No
Hold on
more.
tight.
No.